Hello and welcome to Eagles East. And the big question is, which option is Lemaire going to go for? Amazingly, the votes for option 1 and option 2 were even, so I had to roll a dice, and the choice was option 1. On balance, this was the safer option. 13 Division moving towards Zuzela, 22nd Division along with Corps HQ reverse ferreting to go and join them, and the cavalry moving east towards Mojki to neutralise the Russian cavalry. Fortunately, the weather's been fair for the first few days of this period, and these are the situations of the units as at the 12th of January. You'll note here that the cavalry are approaching Mojki. And old General Denis Guntich, commander of the Russian Corps Cavalry, isn't backing down. And there's no way Patrice Porcine will do the same either. Now he's got 3 brigades of cavalry supported by horse artillery, but they are certainly going to be outnumbered. Guntich has 5 brigades and also some horse artillery. However, 3 of the brigades are small sotny of Cossacks, and he only has 1 regiment of veteran dragoons. So here's the ground, the French arriving from the southwest up towards Mojki, and they find the Russians arrayed just south of the little village. The 3 brigades of Cossacks are to the front, screening the dragoons and hussars making up the second line. The French cavalry are led by the dragoons, with a chasseur on their left flank and the hussars bringing up the rear. They're in column and they'll need to deploy quickly in order to engage the Russians. And here's old General Guntich. He's decided to stand a fight. He's got his dragoons just to his front, and the first line is all the Cossacks. He's screening his hussars and dragoons, and they will be pouncing on the French once the Cossacks get out the way. And he's also got his horse artillery in the village of Mojki ready to support the right flank, and he's keeping a wary eye on the French as they come up the track. Righty-ho, turn 1, ADC availability. The French have 4 dice and the Russians 5. The French have an adjutant, so get a reroll. So that's 4 for the French and 3 for the Russians. Well, I think that's quite simple for the French. 3 brigade rerolls and 1 use of scouts to try and get an advantage for the initiative. And for the Russians, all Cossack brigades will have a brigade reroll. Initiative. Well, that goes to the French, no requirement to use scouts there. So the French 22nd and 23rd regiments of dragoons are veteran, so they can change formation and move. Now get into line. And away they go. Horse artillery will follow up behind. The chasseurs will continue in column. As will the hussars for the moment. And at this stage the Russians will just observe. ADC availability. Reroll for the French. So they'll have 5 and the Russians 3. This time the French will have a forwards tasking for the hussars who are on the right and the chasseurs on the left, and a brigade reroll for the dragoons out the front. And the Russians just go for 3 brigade rerolls for the Cossacks again. All brigades are compliant. Initiative. Certainly with the French again. So we'll go with the chasseur first. It's 2d6 plus 6, along with their normal 18. So that's 16 plus 18, 34. Dragoons will go straight ahead. And the hussars. 13 plus 18, that's 31. I think I'll actually push them to the left of the dragoons. French manoeuvring nicely. What will the Russians do? Well, I think they'll edge this lot up. Along with the hussars. That 2nd regiment getting in a supporting position rather than being on the flank. Well, it looks like the Russian horse artillery are in range of the chasseur. They'll open fire. Inferior battery fire because it's long range. No effect. And a fatigue casualty. Oh dear. That's the end of turn. Well, I think things are going to start hotting up rather soon. It's ADC availability. That's not what the French wanted, but the adjutant gets involved for a reroll, so it's 3-all. For the tasking, nothing subtle from the French. The Dragoons will have a forward tasking. They want to charge those Cossacks, and the Chasseurs have a brigade reroll. I might just pull them back and allow the Hussars to come through. Again, for the Russians, all Cossack brigades have a reroll. Everybody's okay, apart from the Russian Dragoons, who have gone hesitant. So initiative, extra dice for the Russians. And with the 2 lowest, that means that the French have it again. And they will declare a charge. So the Dragoons will charge the Cossacks, 2d6 plus 6, plus their 15. That is more than enough. They're in. I've just moved the Dragoons across to their left slightly, so they're attacking this Sopny here. They are supported from the rear, and the Dragoons are supported there. The Cossacks can evade, but I think this first fight they will stay there, and we'll see how it goes. They may even countercharge. Both sides will get a reroll for the support, but the French will also get a second reroll because they are veteran. Well, that's winning for the Russians at the moment. So, reroll for the French there. 9-7. I guess that's a reroll for the Russians. Losing by 1. I think that will do. The French don't really want to roll again. So that is the French winning by 1. They will close to combat. And we'll come back to that in a minute. And the horse artillery will move over to their right. I guess they can also go the forwards tasking. So they'll come over here and unlimber. So the chasseur, we're going to drop back here. Allowing the hussars to change formation and move at the same time because they're veterans. So I think for the Russians, they will just come forward a little bit. These Cossacks, the other Sopny going in support. And unfortunately for them, the Dragoons behind can't move because they're hesitant. And that'll do for the moment. On to artillery. These horse artillery will fire at those Cossacks there. 1 casualty dice only because they moved and unlimbered. That's no effect. And the Russian guns will fire at the Hussars this time. Inferior battery fire. Double 6. Well, that's a fantastic 2 casualties and a discipline test. And a destiny roll. Right, do the destiny first. 7. Well, that's no effect. They recover 1 casualty, but they haven't got one. And the French aren't close enough for any other effects. So that's that out the way. Let's do a discipline test on the Hussars. So that's an 8. No problem. And the other battery. No effect. So we're into the first combat. It's the veteran Dragoons smashing into the Cossacks. Let's see what happens here. 4 dice for the Cossacks. They lose 1 because they're small, but the Dragoons gain 1 because they're veteran. Looking for 4s up. Well, that's a disaster for the Cossacks. That's 4-0. So it's take the ground or withdraw for the Dragoons. They will take the ground, but the Cossacks will retreat. Now, fortunately for the Cossacks, they've got their Hussars behind them, so they can fall back behind them. And the Dragoons take the ground. That's the end of turn. So a quick stock take before we go any further. The French Dragoons have done well, pushing back that first brigade of Cossacks, but obviously exposing the Hussars there. And they have also got another group of Cossacks on their left. However, perhaps of more importance, they've got them on the right as well, the Atamansky Cossacks. So they could either hit them in the flank, as I don't think Cossacks can charge artillery. So I think they're lucky there. Meanwhile, the Hussars are getting ready to charge into that brigade of Cossacks if they can withstand the fire from the horse artillery. Chasseurs lurking at the rear. This is all very interesting stuff, cavalry on cavalry. Alright, new turn, ADC availability. One reroll for the French, so 4 for them and 3 for the Russians. So I've gone with a brigade reroll with the Hussars here because I want them to charge those Cossacks, who also have a brigade reroll. As do the Dragoons, but the Horse Artillery have an artillery assault. And further back towards the Russians, we got a brigade reroll on the Hussars. All brigades are compliant, including the Cossacks, which retreated behind the Hussars, so they are now unformed. Initiative. Again with the French. So they will declare a charge against them, and I think that will be it. They're within range of their normal movement, so away they go. But unlike a previous turn, I don't think they move in the charge per se, and that's movement surely. So 2 rerolls for the French, 1 because they're veteran and 2 because they're supported, and 1 reroll for the Cossacks. Well, it's a definite reroll there for the French. Oh dear, and another one. That's a bit better. So that means the Cossacks will have to reroll that one. 10-8. Close to combat. Come back to that in a moment. Right, we are into movement now, and before I forget, I'll move up these Horse Artillery. We'll probably unlimber and get ready to take on the Russian Horse Artillery. Secondly, the Chasseurs are going to switch flanks. That's it for the French, I think. The Russian Dragoons are going to line themselves up better. Ready for a charge in a minute. The Cossacks here can reform. And I think these Cossacks are just going to come back a little bit here. Right, firing. Artillery assault by the French Horse Artillery here. I'll be firing at this lot. Effective range, standard battery fire, 2 extra casualty dice. So that's 2 casualties. And the Horse Artillery here, it will just be 1 casualty dice. 1 casualty. Russian guns will fire back. 1 casualty. And the other gun. And another casualty. Now we're back to the cavalry combat, and it's the 3rd Hussars against the 4th Sochi Cossacks. 5 dice to the French and 4 to the Russians. A swirling mass of sabres there, and it's a crunching hit by both sides. That's 4 casualties each. And both sides are unformed. And will reinforce with their second lines. So second round. So I guess I'll split the casualties here. The Russians will get 2 at the front, so that takes them up to 6. 1 at the rear. Hussars 3 at the front. And 2 at the rear. So that's a win by 2 by the Hussars. That means the Cossacks will have to retreat. Fortunately, they can go behind the Dragoons. Otherwise, they'd be dispersed. And I think the Hussars are going to withdraw. And they are going to come back over here. Which rather puts them in the way of the Chasseurs, but I want them away from the guns. And certainly the 3rd Hussars have taken a big hit there. Just look at these Cossacks that retreated from the fight with the Hussars a moment ago. They're on 5 casualties. Had that been on 6, because they're Cossacks, they would have been dispersed. So they're probably now combat ineffective. So the Russian Cossacks have been pushed back behind the Hussars and the Dragoons on the right and left respectively as we're looking. And the Hussars for the French have withdrawn, but it looks like they're manoeuvring to the right. Now, for old Guntich, that may be a problem, because the remainder of the corps are down to the south and he doesn't want to be cut off. ADC availability. 1 reroll for the French. Okay, so they will have 5-3. Let's have a quick look at the tasking for this turn. The French are going heavy, firstly with the Hussars. They're on a brigade reroll, but the Dragoon Brigade
The Commander-in-Chief is getting involved, post of honour, which means they'll have glory and forwards, and it's an artillery assault with the horse artillery on the right. Meanwhile, the Russians will have a brigade reroll for the Cossacks on the right, the Hussars to the front, and the Dragoons to the left. All brigades are compliant, apart from the Cossacks behind the Hussars, who have gone hesitant. They don't fancy the Dragoons ahead of them. We're on to initiative. And because of that hesitant Cossack brigade, it goes to the French, who will declare a charge here by the Dragoons against the Hussars. And just to make sure they get in, they have a forwards tasking. It's 2d6 plus 6, 14 plus a normal move. They're in. Two rerolls for the French, one for the support, one for higher quality, one reroll for the Russians because they are supported. So the Russians will immediately reroll that one. The French will reroll the 2. And that's enough. That's a win by 3. They're into combat. And they have a land. We'll come back to that in a moment. Right, Eagle Eyes, who spotted that should have been a 6 casualty marker as opposed to 5. And unfortunately for the Russians, if the Cossacks get 6, they are dispersed. So away they go. Now, just have a look at the rules. It does say that brigades under 50% strength will disperse, and that's a brigade. So, although I've put the falter marker there, they have a casualty, so technically they're under 50%. So I am going to disperse those Cossacks. Maybe harsh, but that's the way I'm playing it. So the 4th and 5th Sochi Cossacks have fled the field. Okie dokie, now that's been cleared up, we're on to movement. Hussars will reform, and I think the chasseurs come around behind them. Still in columns, so they can go 18. That's it for the French. So old General Guntich, the Russian commander, just seen his Cossacks flee the field, but I tell you what, he's espying an opportunity. Dragoons here. The French Dragoons who advanced, and they're engaging the Russian Hussars, but there's a massive gap behind them. And the Russian Dragoons are going to position themselves to attack the French Hussars. But I think, again, the Atamanskaya Cossacks will just come back a little bit and pivot facing the French Dragoons. And they may get an opportunity to give the Dragoons a nasty surprise. Right, we're on to firing. So I think the French horse artillery here have missed their opportunity with firing at the Dragoons. They're out of arc. So they'll again engage the Russian horse artillery. 2 casualties and a discipline test. The Russian guns are line, and a 5 means they're unformed. Russian right flank, artillery assault. They'll fire at the right-hand Sotnia. Well, check that out. Good firing by the horse artillery there. It's a double 6, so that is a destiny. It's 3 casualties and a discipline test. In fact, it's 4 casualties because of that casualty dice. Destiny roll first. 10. Ooh, falter. High officer casualties throws the opposing enemy brigade into confusion. They falter. Wow, what a fantastic effort. And I've also got to do a destiny test for them. And Cossacks are recruits. Unformed. I don't know if you can have unformed along with falter, but I'll put a marker down anyway. Back to the duel between the horse artillery on the French left flank. 2 casualties and a discipline test. French are line, and they're unformed. 3 more casualties and another discipline test. So the horse artillery are line, like I said before, but they shift right because of unformed, and shift right again because of the casualties. So they're going to roll as enfant perdu. Well, they're unformed. Well, okay, there we go. They were lucky there, I think. On to combat. Here we go. General Patrice Porcine is in. He's got glory and elan with the Dragoons. Well, that's a cracking hit by the Dragoons, but also the Hussars haven't done too bad there either. But that's a win by 2 for the French, so they will take the ground and the losers retreat. So I think they can fall back behind the Cossacks And the dragoons advance. And Patrice Porcine gallops back to his command post. And that, I think, is the end of turn. So I think things are in the balance at the moment. We've got the Cossack brigade just to the front here who are faltering. The Hussars have retreated and exposed the Cossacks to the dragoons of the French. The Russian dragoons are looking menacing against the depleted French Hussars. And clearly, previously, we've had the Russian Cossacks run away. Got to bear in mind, this is a campaign, and both generals will be thinking about that. Next turn, ADC availability, and the Russians are on 4. Reroll for the French. Well, that's handy. They've got 5, and the Russians 3. And one of the Russians has to go to Guntich because of that faltering brigade. So desperate times for the Russians, and Guntich has gone with the Cossacks here and stand with me. So he goes there for 2 ADCs, which means they get another one, and that is a brigade reroll for the Cossacks in front of the dragoons. But I'll tell you what, General Patrice Porcine didn't go back to his command post. He stayed with the dragoons, and he's gone again for post of honour. They are charging its forwards and its glory. They want to smash the Cossacks and smash the Hussars. Meanwhile, back here, it's a brigade reroll for the chasseur and artillery assault for the horse artillery on the right flank. This is going to be very interesting. So everybody is compliant with orders, which means that the Hussars behind the Cossacks have gone to unformed. And with Guntich over here, that means they don't falter and they recover 2 casualties for the brigades with casualties. Initiative. 3 dice for the French because of the Hussars who are hesitant. But I'm afraid that still goes to the French. And we know what's coming here. So I think it's 2d6 for each side with 2 rerolls. Rerolls for the Cossacks because they've got supports from both of those Sotnias, whereas the French get support from the rear and also their better quality. And the French dragoons recovered 1 casualty because of that post of honour Commander-in-Chief command. Away we go. So it's going to be 1 reroll immediately for the Russians. Ooh, that's a good roll. French have to go for 1. And again. Well, that is even Stevens. I think the Russians are going to leave it there. And it's a close to combat. And we'll come back to that in a moment. Hussars will reform, as will the gunners here. Chasseur will move. Cossacks here will reform. Hussars behind the Cossacks will reform. They're in danger of getting pushed off the battlefield. And the Russian artillery here will reform. And the Russian dragoons will advance. Can they smash the French Hussars before the rest of the corps run away? On to firing, and it's artillery assault for the French battery on the right flank. They're going for the right-hand Sotnia. Well, that's a total of 3 casualties. They're up to 6, and I'm afraid they've gone. They didn't like it up them. Unfortunately, this battery is worn, so it's an inferior battery fire. But that's 1 casualty and a discipline test. Good effort. Russian gunners align, unformed. And they will fire back. Well, that's no good. That's a fatigue casualty for the Russians. And the other battery, 1 casualty. That's the end of firing. We're into combat. Well, I tell you what, this might be the make or break for the Russian cavalry corps. The French dragoons, led by General Patrice Porcine, leading from the front, are smashing into the Cossacks. Advantage to the French, 8-4 with the casualty dice. 5-1. So they go up to 4. They go up to 9. Losers retreat, and those Cossacks will disperse. So they're gone. And they will take the ground. So I'm also thinking that the rest of the Cossacks will retreat. This is perpetual leapfrog back through various brigades. So back they go. And I think, to be honest, that is it. And I think I'm actually going to call it there for two reasons. The Russians obviously have a campaign and they've lost a couple of brigades there, and it's not going well. Mainly because look at that bloody disaster on my cloth. I've just spilt me red wine, poured a load of salt down there. The chasseurs have had to get taken away along with the horse artillery battery because I've got to go and wash my blooming cloth there. So I've got to get this off to the wash ASAP. But I think, to be honest, in all seriousness, that was a French victory. Even though those Russian dragoons were looking dodgy there with the French hussars. But that centre has been smashed by those dragoons, and old Patrice Porcine pushing on with his commander-in-chief commands. Well done him. And obviously the Russians were in danger of being cut off from the rest of the corps. So I'm going to give that a victory to the French. I'm going to pour myself some more wine.